You thought it was gonna be out there, huh? Nah, that's not gonna happen. 2024 is here, and we can talk about more visual novels. The problem is, what are we gonna talk about? You know, I'm actually starting to read more visual novels now. Well, I was still reading more visual novels, but like, you know, I didn't really go out into different kinds of genres of visual novels. I was sticking mostly with moege, and that was it. But now I'm reading more different visual novel genres, like mystery, horror, all that kind of stuff. Right now, I'm reading Clannad, Cafe Stella, and sooner or later, I'll be starting to read You and Me and Her. And I'm really excited for that one. So, future video perhaps? I don't know. For today's video, we're going to be talking about a visual novel that I've already covered in the past before. And while I thought that review I made was decent, it didn't really showcase more of how amazing this visual novel really was. It wasn't really a great review in terms of how it was executed. And I thought, you know what? Let's talk about this visual novel again. Let's talk about it and give it a proper review this time. So, let's take a look at PULLTOP's If My Heart Had Wings. Released in 2012 in Japan, this right here is If My Heart Had Wings, a romantic drama visual novel, developed and published by PULLTOP. Now this was one of the first Japanese visual novels I've ever read, so does it still hold up? Well, let's take a look at it and find out. The story follows Aoi, a young boy who returns home to Kazugura due to a cycling accident. As he walks towards his destination, he spots a young woman named Kotori, whose wheelchair was flattened. Once Aoi starts helping her fix it, they both look up and see a glider, which catches the interest of Kotori. And as Aoi's on the lookout for a new club to join in his school, he soon visits the Soaring Club, where the only member and club president, Amane, showcases the glider that he saw before. When Kotori soon arrives in the club, Amane tells the two that she wants to do something before she graduates. She wants to be able to fly through a one-of-a-kind event called the Morning Glory. So with the stubborn yet confident Kotori and the clumsy yet hard-working president Amane, alongside Aoi's charismatic childhood friend Ageha, and the Kazado twins, shy and observant Asa, and protective Kudere, Yoru. Aoi will try his hardest to help the Soaring Club reach that dream and fly near the Morning Glory. I really like this type of story. It's really simple, yet there's a ton of possibilities with how you can execute this type of slice-of-life story. But what If My Heart Had Wings does is tell a story about friendship, companionship, and how far will you go to accomplishing your dreams. It does it in a way you can relate to some of these characters, and cheer them on as they go through their issues. Gameplay is your standard visual novel, and you do make choices along the way as it will take you to 5 different routes. However, 2 routes are locked until you finish 2 specific routes. Thankfully, the choices themselves are pretty straightforward, so you'll be heading into the routes quickly and smoothly. The art style is beautiful, especially when it comes to the background art. It's mesmerizing, colorful, and beautiful. Plus, the character designs are really charming, making a lot of these characters really likable, and some of the CGs look really pretty. I gotta give my thanks to the team at PULLTOP as they really did a fantastic job with the art. Plus, the writing for the novel was very well done. It isn't perfect by all means, but does a solid job capturing a lot of the emotions of the characters, routes, and climaxes. Whether it's something about their past, or as they go through some difficult challenges, the writing does a great job capturing a good amount of emotion within some scenes. The voice acting is really good. Some of the VAs did a great job capturing the personalities of each heroine, and the 2 standouts being Ari Sakuno as Kotori and Ryoko Ono as Amane. I absolutely enjoyed their roles so much, especially Ryoko's role as Amane, but the rest of the cast did a great job too. Here, take a listen to the voice acting.
すごいね、葵。ハバネさんみたいな美少女にチョップかますなんて。じゃあ、私行くね。早いとこ、ハバネさんを追っかけてやって。私も入部したい。私みたいな子で邪魔じゃないなら。私は 5年 C 組、いや D 組だったかな。望月あまねだ。昨日はありがとう。君たちのおかげでまだここにいられる。
What I really love about this novel is the music. It does a great job balancing the emotions of each scene. It feels consistent. A lot of the music feels extremely angelic, making some of the climaxes of a few routes be powerful with its emotional moments. It knows when it needs to be serious, heartwarming, or comedic. Here, take a listen to the music. And hey, H scenes! Now this is pretty cool, right? The H scenes for the novel is honestly not too bad. Some of the expressions may look a tad bit off at some points, but the art for the H scenes make it at least something to take a peek at least just once. But this CG of Ageha is absolutely gorgeous, especially the coloring and the shadows. In total, there are 5 routes to go through in this novel, so let's briefly talk about each one and what they want to deliver. The first route is about Kotori. Ever since meeting Kotori, she's been very interested in the glider, even wanting to fly it. However, due to her being in a wheelchair after an accident in the past, she can't accomplish that goal. In fact, she can't accomplish any goal that is special to her. She feels like she can't do anything. She feels like she's a burden to anyone. But with the help of Aoi, he'll change those negative emotions and give her the courage and bravery she needs in order to fly through the morning glory and accomplish a special goal that she's been wanting to finish for a long time. The second route is Ageha. Ageha is Aoi's childhood friend. She's been with him ever since they first met. And of course, a lot has changed within their town and their relationship. Aoi will soon notice the hidden feelings he once had for Ageha as they continue to spend time with each other. But what he doesn't know is that Ageha is still going through some difficult emotions ever since he moved out of his hometown. So, only Aoi will be able to cheer her up and find new meaning to what can happen into the future. The third route is Amane. Amane has went through so much in her high school life, losing her one and only best friend after she moved away, and not being able to successfully make a perfect glider to fly through the morning glory. But once Aoi and his friends come along, it's a whole different experience to her. With his help, she'll be able to regain the confidence she once had back in her early years of high school, and finally have the opportunity to fully complete her best friend's wish of flying through the morning glory. The fourth route is Asa's. For her, the glider is easily something she is absolutely fascinated at, and when she hears about the goal of flying near the morning glory, she immediately joins in with the group and helps out with whatever they need. However, her twin sister Yoru doesn't see the point or importance on why they should be doing this. So, Asa has to help her sister understand fully and why flying through the morning glory is something special and unforgettable. The final route is Yoru, or more specifically both Asa and Yoru. The two have special feelings for Aoi, which results in drama believing that the two will be separated. However, Aoi thinks of a solution. Why not get together with both girls? That's all I'm really going to say about the route because that's basically it. So, yeah. The characters are all wonderful, and with their routes, they each get a good amount of screen time, and they have a ton of funny and cute moments. But what I really like about these characters is that they aren't just there to be romanceable or act cute. They all have their own stories to tell. They've lost something personal in the past that's stopping them from achieving their goal, and it isn't until you begin a relationship with either of the 5 girls that they soon begin to trust you, and will rely on you to help them get through their situation. It can get really emotional in some specific routes. The drama is honestly really well done. Amane's and Kotori's routes have some pretty good drama that is genuinely sad and impactful, especially once you learn more about them and their routes. However, the drama in Ageha's route was completely unnecessary, to be honest. It wasn't executed in a way where you feel sad for her, more so you feel a bit annoyed with her. I won't get into specific details, but there are some dramatic moments between Aoi and Ageha that feels forced by the developers. but at the very least they did explain why it had to happen later on in her route. The romance is so damn good. It does a good job capturing a really wholesome romantic atmosphere when it focuses on Aoi and one of the heroines getting together for a date or simply spending time talking with one another. There's nothing like too special about it either, but it's something pretty nice to see. Aoi is a great main character, but it doesn't mean that he's perfect. He does have some faults at some points in the novel, but there's a reason why he acts like he is now. After suffering through a cycling accident, he can no longer ride a bicycle like before. He doesn't want to go through something like that again. But he also doesn't want anyone to go through the same stressful and painful emotions he went through. Many of the heroines will go through that similar feeling, and Aoi wants to be able to lift their spirits up so that they don't give up on their goal. He doesn't want any of the girls to lose their passion. Aoi is a hardworking, caring, and quick-thinking person who wants to help others reach their goal or dreams. He thinks giving up isn't an option, because when there's a will, there's a way. The themes and messages are really impactful, especially when it comes from the drama. Many of the characters have to go through some difficult situations. Kotori doesn't believe she can fly through the morning glory. Amani doesn't want to give up on her best friend's wish, even as the situation becomes more and more difficult. And Agaha believes that she'll only bring bad luck to her friends and Aoi after an event that happened in the past. Many of the messages are fairly simple, like never giving up on something you worked years for, having the confidence and believing in yourself, and don't stick to the past. Just move on and see what the future has in store for you. For me, I believe If My Heart Had Wings deals with the theme of loss. Almost every heroine, including Aoi, has dealt with something that they lost in the past. Kotori's ability to move her legs due to a past accident, Amani losing the only friend she ever had after she moved, and Agaha losing something precious in her past. These heroines deal with these situations that causes them to lose focus on their goal. And for Aoi, he motivates them and tells them that they can't stick to the past. If Amani wants to finish her best friend's goal, she has to finish it. If Kotori wants to fly a glider but doesn't believe she can, then find a way. Find something unique that you can do. If My Heart of Wings tells us that we have to find our own way to accomplish our goal, with confidence, friendship, and bravery, we'll be able to overcome our problems and head straight to our goal. Now, who do I consider the best girl and which is the best route? Honestly, Amani is hands down both the best girl and has the best route. Amani is easily the most likable character you'll ever meet in If My Heart Had Wings. She's smart, but clumsy at some points. She's a hard worker, but is careless enough to forget about something. For her, she only wants one thing in life, to be able to accomplish her best friend's goal to fly through the morning glory. And her route delivers her story in one of the most emotional executions in the entire novel. It's an emotional roller coaster as we get through the final parts in her route, as it shows her in her lowest point yet, trying to think of a way to motivate herself, otherwise her work would have been for nothing. Aoi helps her by giving her a reason to continue on with her goal. Make her proud. Make her best friend proud and show her that you were able to overcome all this trouble for her. Show her that you are a passionate friend who always stood by her side. Show us that you can achieve the impossible. And the finale to a route is honest to God one of the best endings PULLTOP has ever made. It's emotionally satisfying that really hits you in the heart hard, where you are able to make your heart soar through the sky with its wings. If My Heart and Wings received overwhelmingly positive reviews from readers alike, with many praising the voice acting, story, characters, art, and music, but criticizing some of the writing and Agaha's route. To put it simply, my thoughts on If My Heart and Wings is that I absolutely loved it. This is one of the very first Japanese visual novels I've ever read, and it's a fantastic place to start if you want to get started reading visual novels. The story, the characters, the music, the art, and the routes really make If My Heart Had Wings an emotional and heartwarming experience that showcases the importance of friendship, love, and how far we can go to accomplishing our goals. I highly recommend reading this visual novel. Now, I thought that visual novel was absolutely amazing when I first read it. It was unlike anything I've ever read before in terms of its story, characters, as well as its theme and messages. But let's take a look at its sequel. Well, quote-unquote sequel. Let's take a look at If My Heart Had Wings, Flight Diary. This right here is If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary, a fan disc sequel to the original visual novel, released in January 5th, 2013 in Japan, developed and published by PULLTOP. This is a collection of 8 standalone stories. 2 are epilogues while the others are what-if scenarios. So, let's start out with the standalone stories first. The first story details about Hotaru, Ageha's little sister, mostly focusing on her relationship with Aoi as they start to suddenly get close after they continue to spend time with each other, due to Ageha's plans. The second story is about Kaneko. After an embarrassing event that happened with Aoi, she suddenly starts to grow feelings for him, where once they start to get closer to one another, Aoi starts to see Kaneko in a way he's never seen her before. The third story is about the twin sisters. This one is fairly straightforward as it focuses more on Aoi's relationship with both sisters. The fourth story is actually DLC, and it's about Akari. Akari never really understood why the Soaring Club needed to exist. She always found it as something that isn't important. It isn't until Aoi showcases to her why the club is important, where she soon starts to see and realize how special it is to everyone, where she also suddenly grows feelings for Aoi. The fifth story is a unique recap to the original If My Heart Had Wings, set from the eyes of Kotori, where we learn what she thought of certain events from her eyes, along with learning more about her past. The final 2 are epilogues. Think of them as the true ends for the original story. The first epilogue takes place after Amane's route, and shows us how the club originally started through flashbacks, as well as showing us what happens now that Amane and her long-lost best friend Isuka reunite. The second epilogue and final story takes place after Kotori's route. Set 3 years after the events of the original story, Aoi, Kotori, and the rest of the members are now gonna leave the club behind and pass it down to a new generation and move on with their lives, but not before they plan one more big event as a grand goodbye to the club. There is one story for Ageha, but to be fair, it's mostly a lot of sexual imagery and other stuff related to sex, so it's really not worth diving into that one. The standalone stories were great. Hotaru and Kaneko's route were really fun to read through as they both deliver some unique and memorable experiences. It's nice to see how both the relationship with Aoi unfolds into something much more bigger. The twin story, I could care less, to be honest. I wasn't really a big fan of that. But the recap story by Kotori was a really sweet touch, giving us a unique point of view from one of the main heroines. But my favorite standalone story has to be Akari's route. Akari's route was basically an extra route to the original visual novel, delivering a unique take where Aoi has to be the one to showcase the meaning and importance of the club to Akari, and why people should care about it. There's a ton of fantastic moments between Akari and Aoi that is both wholesome and romantically sweet. Akari's VA was perfect throughout the route, and made me love her character even more. The after stories were honestly fantastic. They absolutely delivered a one-of-a-kind emotional goodbye to the readers. Kotori's after story really showcased a powerful message of never giving up on what makes the club so special to others and to newcomers as a whole, while Amani's after story showcased an emotional message of friendship, how impactful it can be to one person's life, and how special it can leave an impact to an entire group of people. Amani's after story was easily my favorite after story. It delivered a perfect ending to the entire If My Heart Had Wings story and made for an emotional ending to Amani's story as a whole, finding love with Aoi and accomplishing her goal and reuniting with her best friend Isuka. The story of friendship and past memories really made the experience really heartfelt and emotional. The romance and drama in the after stories were very well done and executed in a very touching way, and there are also a few new pieces of music as well that was exclusive to the fan disc, and they are honestly some of my favorite pieces from PULLTOP, especially Innocent Air and Brand New Sky. And the sound design is really cool too, as once you put on some headphones, you genuinely feel like you're right there in the story, as many of the voices have specific moments where it feels like the characters are next to you. It honestly kind of feels realistic. If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary received overwhelmingly positive reviews once again, with many praising the huge amount of content, stories, characters, and voice acting. So, what are my thoughts on this novel? Or I should say, what are my thoughts on this fan disc? I genuinely really enjoyed it. It's on par with the original If My Heart Had Wings, especially with the two after stories. It does a great job closing the stories of Kotori and Amane in a really emotional and satisfying way that will leave the readers extremely happy. Plus, the side routes are very enjoyable as well. Kaneko's and Hotaru's routes were pretty cute, but of course my personal favorite was Akari, as it was really nice and refreshing to get a whole new route that feels different and unique to the others. The story, the characters, the new music, the art, and the satisfying endings will leave many fans of the original satisfied with their experience. If My Heart Had Wings Flight Diary not only delivers great endings to some heroines, but enjoyable experiences with the other heroines, giving us a wonderful fan disc. I'm honestly glad I was able to review these properly, able to give these more attention, more and talk about more about the details of each visual novel. And honestly, this is a really fantastic series that you really need to read. However, we are missing one visual novel in the series, one that I didn't really actually review because I never read it before. But we're going to talk about it finally. So, without further ado, let's talk about the final visual novel in the If My Heart Had Wings series. If My Heart Had Wings, Snow Presents. This right here is If My Heart Had Wings Snow Presents, a special holiday fan disc released in July 25th, 2014, developed and published by PULLTOP once again. Now I'll only be talking about this fan disc for a very small amount of time, as it's a very short visual novel, so do keep that in mind. This is a fan disc that takes place between the ending of Kotori's route and the epilogue of Flight Diary, where it focuses on Aoi and Kotori's relationship during the holiday season, where we will be able to see heartwarming moments between the two as they continue to finish off Kotori's new goals before the start of their final school year. I think this is a very well made fan disc. It does a good job delivering what it was meant to deliver, more wholesome romantic moments with Kotori. The writing is honestly pretty good, and the art of course is fantastic as always, along with the phenomenal music. Instead of the usual choice making in every visual novel, you have a calendar selection which allows you to view the moments that will happen in each day between Aoi and Kotori, while also completing Kotori's goals as well. I think it's neat, and very much fits with the fan disc story. The H scenes though are really strange. Some of them are just CGs of course, but the actual sex scenes are animated. And I don't know how I feel about that, to be honest. It's pretty off-putting once you view it, and while I don't mind it at all, I'm not really a big fan of these animated H scenes. We also get a live 3D model of Kotori, where she can move around and talk with you more lively. I genuinely really like this. It makes the fan disc feel more realistic due to this. And the amazing sound design. I highly recommend wearing headphones while reading Snow Presents, as it actually makes you feel like you're really next to Kotori when she's talking with you. Overall, I think If My Heart Had Wings Snow Presents did a great job with its fan disc, providing more cute romantic moments while also making the experience for many readers more realistic with its 3D animation for Kotori and the sound design. If you're a fan of Kotori, or if you just want to see more cute romantic moments, this is the fan disc for you. I thought that was a really cute fan disc, honestly. It's not like the greatest fan disc ever made, that belongs to Wagamama High Spec OC, but If My Heart Had Wings Snow Presents delivers a really cute romantic story of winter love. And honestly, if you haven't read Snow Presents, and I'm hoping that the English translation will be finished soon, when the English translation is for Snow Presents release, I highly recommend you read it. Now before we end this video off, let's take a look at something really cool. Well, not take a look, let's listen to something that's really cool. So I invited two of my closest VN friends in the visual novel community, those being fellow YouTubers, AngeVNs and ASid. These guys are going to be talking about some of their opinions and thoughts on If My Heart Had Wings, specifically the original If My Heart Had Wings. And that's really what they're going to do. So, without further ado, here is AngeVNs.
Hello everyone, this is Ange, here to give my brief thoughts on the original If My Heart Had Wings or Konosora, hopefully as a compliment to LuckyPuyo's opinion. So I have the interesting perspective where I've been reading visual novels long enough to where I remember a time when there was no 18 plus retranslation patch. I actually never read the original Steam MoeNovel version and only heard the controversial things the translation did. When I saw the retranslation project on PULLTOP all those years ago, I was very excited, and throughout the 3 to 5 years it was going through, I waited with bated breath for the supposed good translation and having all the original H scenes intact. When the opportunity came for me to be an official QC tester for this retranslation patch, I jumped on it immediately, and I usually don't like to toot my own horn, but if I didn't join this project, it's likely the retranslation patch would have released in a barely readable state. But to put my thoughts on the actual visual novel, it's currently in my top 3 favorite visual novels to date for very good reason. If My Heart Had Wings is a very simple but wholesome story, but honestly, that's all it really needed to do. It executed basically almost everything I wanted excellently from start to finish. Even as early as the common route, I really liked the introduction of the Glider Club, especially Kotori's character development, from someone who was very tsundere and standoffish to her more now likable, energetic self. But honestly, the Glider Club in general is very unique and one of my favorite unique clubs to exist in anime or visual novels. It was so unique and inspiring that it actually got me to actually try a glider flight in real life, and it was surprisingly fun, if a bit expensive experience. All 5 routes in If My Heart Had Wings contribute to the wholesome and inspiring themes and execution in their own ways. Naturally, some routes are better than others, and unfortunately, I'm one of the many people who wasn't a super fan of Ageha's route, even though I actually liked her the most in the common route, at least in terms of base personality. Thankfully, the other 4 routes were good at worst and great to god tier at best. The only real flaw I have with the execution of these 4 routes is that they have almost the exact same format. The Glider Club simultaneously has issues to where people want to fly to the morning glory, while the main heroine of the route is also having some personal issues to get through, with the final climax of the route almost always Aoi and the main girl flying to the morning glory. Thankfully, this flaw wasn't too big of an issue because it was the personal issues between the different routes being different in every route that made each morning glory more distinct. The one thing I think is surprisingly underrated about this visual novel is the music. Between the chill slice of life scenes, but also the climactic glider flying scenes, the music just makes everything much more impactful with the very inspiring sounding songs. And naturally, the general graphics and presentation of If My Heart Had Wings are just really good all around, with some of my favorite character sprites, backgrounds being very detailed and bright. My personal favorite girl from the original If My Heart Had Wings, in terms of a waifu ability, was probably actually Kanako, even though she technically doesn't get a route until Flight Diary. She's just a combination of being mildly quirky, always wearing her underwear around in the dorm, even with a guy around, but also just being a chill, teasy kind of girl that can also be a good emotional support for various characters. My personal favorite character in terms of character development, though, was actually Isuka. I like her ties to Amane and the creation of the Glider Club in general, and how she arrived in the climax of Amane's route was just really great. It's just a shame she was a very minor character because I really wanted to see more of the struggles she was going through when she had to stop attending school due to her illness. One final thing I wanted to note is that If My Heart Had Wings still has one of my favorite cases of canon threesome or polyamory relationships through Yoru's route, with Aoi dating both Asa and Yoru. I know this threesome relationship gets criticism by people, and to be fair, it is kind of a weird wish fulfillment twin romance fantasy. Generally, I'm not into that stuff, but I actually liked the way the plot and character development led to this relationship because it was essentially the best way for both the twins to be happy after coming off of Asa's route. This threesome, in terms of favorite polyamory routes, is honestly only beaten by the same company and writer through Interstellar Focus having a relationship between Akito, Hikari, and Saya. I guess Kono Asta, the writer, must have done a lot of research to figure out the best ways to make a threesome romance work. And that's about it for my personal thoughts on this visual novel. I definitely highly recommend If My Heart Wings or Konosora if you want a really wholesome slice-of-life romance with pretty inspiring themes, a unique glider club, and solid character development.
Thank you, Ange. So, without further ado, here is our next guest, ASid.
Hey gents. No wait, wrong audience. Hello LuckyPuyo fans. I'm just a visual novel degenerate, but you can call me Acid or Acid, whatever. Now I'll be honest, I don't exactly remember all the details of If My Heart Wings because I first read it years ago, and I acquired it through not any legal means because, come on, I was a young teenager back then that did not have any money to buy games. But don't worry, it's in my Steam library now though. Anyway, based on what I could remember, I actually had a real good time reading it. It gave a very good first impression when I started reading it, and there are several aspects that made it memorable. Firstly, the visuals. I remember one background CG that was by the coastline, and there were wind turbines and solar panels if I recall correctly. And when I first saw that, I was mesmerized by the view. My young self was wondering if Japan was really like that, to the point that I did want to go there just for that area. The setting is kind of sci-fi, which is one of my favorite genres, so I immediately got hooked onto the VN. Like having these big ass classrooms with each student seat having their dedicated computers and one big ass screen in front of the classroom just looks so cool. The climaxes of certain routes were very impactful, heavily supported by the music. And oh god, the music. I would say it's outstanding. Now I forgot the names, so I searched for the OSTs, and two tracks that I want to point out are Precious Wing and Perfect Sky. And wow, when I listen to them again, the nostalgia just flowed through me. So I'll say that the soundtrack of this VN will not disappoint you. As for the routes, I could only give my opinion on Kotori's, Amane's, and a bit of Ageha's because the twins didn't interest me. You gotta understand, back then, I was the horny f***. I mean, I still am now, but that's not the point. I focused on the body way more than the personality. So going through the routes of the twin lollies was a big no for me. In Kotori's route, I'll admit I first skipped because I wanted to get into Amane's as soon as possible, but I did read it for real in the second playthrough. Long story short, what I can say is that it was enjoyable and wholesome. Amane's was the most impactful to me, again because of the climax and also due to a reveal of a certain character. Ageha's route, on the other hand, was kind of bad. I actually dropped her route midway, and I think it's because of how boring it got. A shame though, she has nice badonkers. The concept of the story was pretty unique to me since it involves flight and the glider, and the story itself was also quite engaging. Wasn't that deep by any means, but I find that the group of characters working together to achieve a certain goal to be really touching. Seeing the characters and their determination to work on the glider was honestly motivating. Speaking of the characters, I do like most of them. Even Ageha was nice of a character before her route. And I did like the twin lollies to a certain extent in the common route. But I think that Yoru was quite rude at certain points. Understandable though, because she's a genius, but hey, Amane is also a genius, yet she's an airhead. And I'm still biased towards her. I know that it's unfair to determine best girl without reading the other routes completely first, but I don't care. Busty airhead genius senpai reigned supreme, and at one point became sensei. TILF supremacy for the win. In addition to that, I also want to give a shout out to Kanako and Akari. They're also in my top 3 in that order. So, if Ange's best girl is not one of these 3, then he's wrong. Source? Trust me bro. To say my piece, I would conclude that If My Heart Wings is a good visual novel, especially one to start with. It is a relatively long one, but hey, if my young teenager self back then managed to read until the end of the common route and 2.5 routes, then I would say it's worth a try. Still, I will need to read the VN again and completely this time for my own review. One of the main reasons I stopped playing several years ago was because of the 18+ patch. Not because of the content, but because it f***ed the game. I mean, yes, of course, you get the necessary age scenes, but the patch either bugs out your sprites or your background CGs, in my experience. To explain further, either the game will show the sprites but not the background CGs, or vice versa. As a result, it ruined my reading session, not gonna lie. Anyway, that's all from my part. Thanks for the invitation for this collab, Puyo. Now say Amane's best girl, you little shit.
Oh, that ASid, man. That... I don't even know what to say. That was just really freaky. Now, I forgot to mention two specific If My Heart Had Wings physical copies. So, let's take a look at the first one. This right here is the Nintendo Switch port for If My Heart Had Wings. And this came out in... when did it come out? Hold on. Okay, it came out in 2021, and this was released by East Asia Soft alongside MoeNovel. And this is basically a more refined version of MoeNovel's port. And I paid $40 for this. This was not worth it at all. And it comes with a really cute manual inside of just the physical version, but that's really it. There is a limited edition box set that you can get that has both the game, an art book, the soundtrack, and the manual as well. And that seems way better purchase than this. So if you want to get this one, sure, go ahead. But I highly recommend getting the limited edition box. This is still a nice piece to own of If My Heart Had Wings, but I don't know, this wasn't worth it at all. Now let's take a look at a better version of a console port. This right here is If My Heart Had Wings Cruise Sign, a PlayStation 3 and PS Vita exclusive version of If My Heart Had Wings. This came out in 2016 and is basically the definitive version of If My Heart Had Wings. Well, of course, without the 18+ content, but this port includes not only the original visual novel, but Flight Diary and the Akari DLC. That alone is just really, really cool, and I highly recommend getting this port. It includes all of that content, plus you get some brand new original short stories that were made exclusively for Cruise Sign. That's really, really cool. Also, just the artwork, the disc. This is just really, really, really cool. I think I paid about like 30 or 35 bucks for this. It's not the worst, obviously, but I bought this because I'm a collector and I really love this visual novel. I wanted to get it because it's really cool to see both the original visual novel and Flight Diary all in one package. That alone is like the definitive version. So if you're interested in this, I highly recommend looking around like an eBay or something just eBay. Go on eBay and see if you can find a listing for this, and I highly recommend picking this one up. And so we reached the end. Thank you so much for watching, and I can't wait for you guys to soon see my upcoming videos that are coming out this year. I have a big list of videos that are planned for this year, especially like the Majikoi review, the Alkana review, and of course the Tsukihime review. Sadly, of course, I cannot do the Tsukikana review, which would have been like the final chapter of the Tonework Saga, because I do have a lot of stuff going on in the background, especially my university stuff. So in its place for December's release will be the Cafe Stella review, which I'm really excited, and I'm hoping you guys are excited too, because Cafe Stella so far, well, I'm not done reading it yet. I am in the last two routes, and so far this has been one of the best visual novels I've ever read so far. So I hope you're excited as I am. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Now hold on just a moment, we have to talk about one single thing that I forgot to mention in the video. And this is kind of last minute, so here's a surprise announcement. Later this year I'm going to be making a Patreon account for you guys. This Patreon account will allow you guys to support my channel and help it make it grow. Basically, you'll be supporting me as I create more high quality videos and as well upgrade my equipment to some better ones. In return, you get some exclusive stuff. You get your name at the end of the video's credits, you get some new sneak peeks at some upcoming projects I have in the works, and you'll also be able to watch some uncensored videos that were already published in my YouTube channel. So basically, you'll be able to see the age scenes visibly now. And my favorite one, Patreon subscribers will be able to get the chance to view some exclusive 18+ reviews that will only be made available on Patreon. That's pretty cool, right? The logos that appear on screen will be some potential videos that might actually happen on my Patreon account. But just remember, keep in mind that it could potentially happen. That doesn't mean it will happen, but just, it may or may not. So just keep that in mind. Anyways, I'm planning to launch this Patreon account in March. So if you are planning to support my channel, please come on down and join my Patreon account. Your support will mean the world to me. Anyways, that's all I got for you guys. Please take a moment and subscribe to my channel and give this video a like if you enjoyed it. And I'll see you guys in the next video.